Compare and contrast the hypothalamic regulation of the anterior and posterior pituitary gland. Stimulus from the hypothalamus comes from the nervous system. Cortex, thalamus, limbic system, and internal organs. Cortex, C, thalamus, T, limbic system, and internal organs. You could say clit, cortex, internal organs, cortex, limbic system, internal organs, thalamus. Clit, cortex, limbic system, internal organs, thalamus. Clit, cortex, limbic system, internal organs, thalamus. Clit. This stimulus is received by the hypothalamic nerve cells. Once the anterior pituitary gland receives the hypothalamic hormone, which is growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone inhibiting hormone for somatotrophs, the neurosecretory cells in the hypothalamus secrete releasing hormones as a response to this hormone that the hypothalamus gives. So when the somatotrophs in the anterior pituitary gland receive that hormone, it releases hormone. It releases HGS, human. It releases HGS. This stimulates body growth. I think it's meant to be human growth hormone, HGH. Stimulates body growth through insulin-like growth factors. And we'll look at the feedback loop for that soon. When the hypothalamus releases TRH, which is thyroid releasing hormone, the thyrotrophs secrete thyroid stimulating hormone. This stimulates the growth of the thyroid and stimulates synthesis and secretion of T3 and T4. There's thyrotropin releasing hormone and thyrotropin inhibiting hormone. So the hypothalamus regulates TSH with thyrotropin releasing hormone and thyrotropin inhibiting hormone. The hypothalamus also releases GnRH. Gonadotropin releasing hormone. Gonadotropin releasing hormone. As a response to this, the gonadotrophs release follicle hormone, which stimulates estrogen and sperm and luteinizing hormone, which stimulates progesterone and testosterone. When the hypothalamus secretes PRH and PIH, prolactin inhibiting hormone and prolactin releasing hormone, the lactotrophs release prolactin, and this initiates milk in mammary glands. So far, we've got somatotrophs, thyrotrophs, gonadotrophs, and lactotrophs. See the girl lift cats. See the girl lift cats. Somatotrophs, thyrotrophs, gonadotrophs, lactotrophs, corticotrophs. See the girl lift cats. Somatotrophs, thyrotrophs, gonadotrophs, lactotrophs, and corticotrophs. The thalamus releases CRH, which I assume is cortical releasing hormone. The corticotrophs release adrenocorticotrophic hormone, adrenocorticotrophic hormone, adrenocorticotrophic hormone, ACTH, and this stimulates adrenal cortex to secrete glucocorticoids, for example, cortisol. The corticotrophs also stimulate melanocyte stimulating hormone. Corticotrophs release 2. Gonadotrophs release 2. Somatotrophs receive 2 hormones, GRAH, GHIH, and lactotrophs receive 2, PRH, PIH. Corticotrophs stimulate melanocyte, which increases skin production of melanin. The posterior gland receives stimulus to release the hormones. It doesn't synthesize any hormones. And that's antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. Antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. Antidiuretic hormone release of blood volume, blood volume, and oxytocin stimulates milk production and contracts uterus. Contrast and compare the hypothalamic regulation. So we've described how the hypothalamus releases hormones that result in the action of the anterior pituitary. Out of those hormones, we talked about 5 releasing hormones and 2 inhibiting hormones. The hypothalamus also involves negative feedback in the form of hormones released by target glands. So it releases less hormones from the hypothalamus when blood levels reach their target hormone level. Posterior pituitary hormones regulate secretion and action of antidiuretic. Antidiuretic hormone acts to retain body water and increase blood pressure. ADH acts to retain body water and increase blood pressure. Number 1, positive feedback is high blood pressure stimulates hypothalamic osmoreceptors. Neurosecretory cells synthesize and release ADH. Nerve impulses liberate ADH from posterior pituitary into blood. So there's 3 positive feedback from ADH. High blood pressure stimulates hypothalamic osmoreceptors. Neurosecretory cells synthesize and release ADH. And nerve impulses liberate ADH from posterior pituitary into blood. Target tissues are kidneys. They action this by retaining water and increasing urine. Sediferous sweat glands action this by decreasing water loss through sweating. And arterioles, arterioles, constrict, which results in increasing blood pressure. The negative feedback is that low blood osmotic pressure inhibits hypothalamic osmoreceptors. And the inhibition of the osmoreceptors reduces or stops ADH secretion. So ADH is actually stimulated by osmolarity. Amount of fluid in blood decreases. ADH leaves through the hypophyseal veins and ends up in the kidneys and causes our collecting ducts in our kidney to be made more permeable. Antidiuretic hormone is also known as vasopressin. and it's stored in the pituitary, the posterior pituitary, in vesicles until a certain type of stimulation takes place. Now we go on to the feedback mechanisms of ADH. ADH is an antidiuretic hormone. Anti-D-I-U-R-E-T-I-C. Anti-D-I-U-R-E-T-I-C. It decreases urine production ADH causes kidneys to return more water to the blood, which decreases urine volume. Number 1. High blood pressure due to dehydration stimulates osmoreceptor neurons in the hypothalamus Number 2. After the elevated blood osmotic pressure is activates the osmoreceptors. The osmoreceptors activate the hypothalamic neurosecretory cells that synthesize and release ADH. So number 1, high blood pressure stimulates the osmoreceptors. Number 2, osmoreceptors activate the hypothalamic neurosecretory cells. Number 3, when neurosecretory cells receive excitatory input from the osmoreceptors, they generate nerve impulses that cause excitosis of ADH containing vesicles. This liberates ADH, and it can then diffuse into blood capillaries of the posterior pituitary. Number 4, the blood carries ADH to 3 places. What are they? Kidneys, sweat glands, smooth muscle. The kidney retains more water. Sweat glands decrease. And decrease in perspiration, and smooth muscle contracts in response to high levels of ADH. This narrows the blood vessels and increases blood pressure. Number 5, low osmotic pressure of blood or increased blood volume inhibits the osmoreceptors. The 3 cells are PNS, paraventricular nucleus, neurosecretory cell, supraoptic nucleus. So there's actually just 2 nucleuses. Paraventricular nucleus, neurosecretory cell, supraoptic nucleus. And this is called the hypophyseal portal system. this is called the hypothalamic posterior pituitary stalk. The hypothalamic posterior pituitary stalk. The hypothalamic posterior pituitary stalk. Then we go on to growth hormone inhibiting hormone. Growth hormone inhibiting hormone number 1. First of all, we have the hypothalamus stimulate the somatotrophes by releasing growth hormone releasing hormone. The somatotrophes receive the growth hormone releasing hormone and this happens, the growth hormone releasing hormone occurs through low blood glucose, hypoglycemia. So once there's low blood glucose, the hypoglycemia stimulates a release of growth hormone releasing hormone. Human growth hormone and IGFs, which is what happens from somatotrophes in the anterior pituitary, speed up breakdown of liver glycogen into glucose, which enters the blood more rapidly. So human growth hormone and IGF speed up breakdown of liver glycogen into glucose. Blood glucose levels return to normal. And if blood glucose continues to increase, hyperglycemia inhibits release of growth hormone releasing hormone. Number 6. High blood pressure, high blood glucose, hyperglycemia, stimulates a release of growth hormone inhibiting hormone. This inhibits the secretion of human growth hormone by somatotrophes. High blood glucose, number 6, which is hypoglycemia, stimulates a release of growth hormone inhibiting hormone. Growth hormone inhibiting hormone, number 7, inhibits what? Secretion of human growth hormone by somatotrophes. A low level, number 8, of human growth hormone and IGFs decrease the rate of glycogen breakdown in the liver. A low level of human growth hormone and IGFs decrease the rate of glycogen breakdown in the liver, and glucose enters the blood more slowly. Number 9, blood glucose falls to normal. Number 10, if blood glucose continues to decrease, what happens? Hyperglycemia inhibits what? Release of growth hormone inhibiting hormone. To recap, in anterior pituitary, ACTH stimulates a release of hormone from the adrenal cortex, and that happens from which? I can't see where that comes from. LH, and that's from, I know that's from the gonatrophs, I think. No. Anyway, follicle stimulating hormone, which is from the gonatrophs, stimulates follicle development in women, and in men stimulates sperm production. TSH, and this is what thyrotrophs cells secrete, stimulate the release of thyroid hormone, which is T3 and T4. Growth hormone, which is otherwise known as human growth hormone, which is received the stimulus from hypothalamus growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone inhibiting hormone to somatotrophs, promotes the body's growth and development. And lactotrophs, which receive the stimulus prolactin releasing hormone and prolactin inhibiting hormone. Lactotrophs secrete prolactin, and this controls milk production. The posterior releases ADH, which is also called vasopressin, and that helps control the body's water and electrolyte levels. And the posterior pituitary also releases, not synthesizes, oxytocin, which does what? Promotes uterine contraction during labour and activates milk ejection in nursing women.